Hello and welcome to the 84 Million podcast. Today we have as our guest Mr. Ben Miklozek. He's based in Oslo, Norway, and he's a co-founder of Lokotech. Ben and his team are spearheading groundbreaking efforts to usher in the next generation of energy-efficient Scrypt or Scrypt ASIC technology. Ben spoke at the 2022 Litecoin Summit and gave a presentation there. And you can find him on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Ben Miklozek, which is also on the screen for our visual folks. So hi, Ben. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Glad to have
Pleasure.
you. Glad to have you, sir. I know you've been disrupting the Scrypt, like I said, Scrypt mining space with Lokotech. I'm somewhat aware of what you're doing. Looking forward to learning about more during this episode. Specifically, I'm referring to your Hashblade. But before we dive into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Yeah, my background is actually like most crypto miners. You're not really educated in it. You just kind of hop in it and go from there. I'm originally from Indiana. Come from a large farming community in the rural part of the state, and actually went off and got my master's in Australia. And that's how I ended up in Norway because my wife is Norwegian and has either moved to Indiana or moved to Norway. And I was like, well, it's cheaper to travel down south from Norway, so see Europe. So why not go there? So that's how I ended up over in Norway. And actually, that's kind of why how I got into crypto too, meeting some other guys that were mining in the industry and people that were really starting to pick it apart and get into it and look at it more of a business perspective of what's good, what's bad, and kind of basically how everybody gets into it. You kind of just dip your toes in and then you just jump full in.
Very interesting. Did you say Australia or Austria?
Australia.
So you were in Australasia and then went to Northern Europe or Scandinavia.
Correct.
You've been around a little bit. Traveling is always worth it, if you ask me. So it sounds like you've done your fair share over the years. I had a friend from when I was in New Zealand when I was younger, and we had some friends from Norway, and they taught me a few phrases. I won't practice them here because it's been so long, but I might be able to greet you in your home country should I ever get there. Beautiful place. I'd love to visit Norway one of these days. Although, what's your time? What's your amount of daylight you're experiencing right now? I know Oslo's more south, but it's winter.
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit further south than Oslo. I'm actually based in Drama, which is about a 30-minute train ride from Oslo. But we usually get sun from, and it's just kind of like right at the horizon from like 11 to 1:30, 2-ish. And then it just kind of remains dusk and dawn for a lot longer.
Yeah.
So
was that a pretty big
But I mean, you go
adjustment
further north,
from Indiana?
you really get nothing. I mean, it gets pretty dark.
Yeah, I can imagine. How was that adjustment initially for you versus Indiana?
Well, it's actually quite strange because I always looked into it. I was like, oh, winter sickness, I'm gonna get this. I didn't get it for the first like 2 winters I was here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third winter, it was a doozy, man. It's almost like you have mono. If anybody's ever had that, and you're just tired and just unmotivated all the time. But after that hit me on that third winter, basically they kind of have a rule of thumb here, and they already eat a lot of fish, which has a lot of vitamin D in it. But every month with an R in it, you take vitamin D. Every month that doesn't have an R in it, you basically got sun. So, and we do a lot of hiking, a lot of outdoor activities and stuff here. So during the summer months, you are always out in the sun. Yeah. But in the winter, it's a little bit more of a difficulty to get out in the sun when there is no sun.
Yeah, well, vitamin D is a big deal, so that's a great thing. Most people are deficient, but I digress. Interesting to hear a bit about your story there. So you sort of said you kind of accidentally got into crypto and mining. That was my next question. What attracted you to cryptocurrency then, or specifically Litecoin or Doge, perhaps?
I mean, I kind of stumbled into that just because one of the other co-founders was, huge into mining Litecoin and Dogecoin, and that's how I kind of stumbled into that. But I quickly realized that it was a better Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin always has the first mover advantage, but that doesn't always mean that it's the best. And we can see in recent performance of Litecoin that I believe it's becoming more and more noticed. And the reason I personally got into mining, just to go back a little, was I'm pretty much a libertarian. I mean, I like accountability, self-preservation, let people do what they want to do and then not have one choice. If somebody wants to do something, let them do it. So that's kind of what really drew me into crypto because, the whole culture around it is like that. Everybody just, you do whatever you do you and I'll do me. So, and then it creates a nice basis of value for the different coins that are created throughout the different communities and stuff. So
Yeah, I share that with you, and I'm hoping there's still those that love liberty in the space. I know there are. We're not the last ones out there, right? But sometimes I feel like that. But several of our guests, I think we agree about the initial kind of philosophy behind all this sort of thing, especially sound money. And sound money is an old idea. We just haven't had it in much of our history. So I think we get more of that with Litecoin and Bitcoin. Although I do agree that Litecoin with the MWeb extension block extension, especially, gives us kind of
yeah.
more of a fungible money, which Bitcoin has yet to accomplish on chain.
And that will only get better when convenience gets better with MWeb.
Yeah, and mobile wallets, et cetera. More users. I agree with you. Before we discuss how your technology is changing Scrypt mining, I'm interested in kind of, again, I'm not a miner. I had Nate Poole on a previous episode. He shared a bit. Bird's eye view, kind of get it, but I've never mined anything. Well, that's actually technically not true, years ago. But for the most part, I have not mined anything. And if it was, it wasn't in the past 6-7 years, and it was never anything seriously. So I'm interested in kind of knowing what the space looks like now. Hashblade aside, what does it look like? Big miners to mine Litecoin or Scrypt? What are the sort of capital barriers to entry? A new independent miner like me, if I wanted to just start mining tomorrow, what would I have to overcome to enter the space and compete and actually get rewards?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, actually. I mean, the biggest competitor for us is Bitmain. I mean, they have the most efficient ASIC on the market, and what helps that is basically the vast amounts of capital that they're able to make it down to those and establish relationships to make it down to those lower nodes. Because they're on the 7 nanometer. I don't know what Gold Shell is on, but their efficiency really isn't competitive in this day and age with retail pricing per kilowatt hour. So, I mean, I would say I wouldn't want to knock them off because there are a lot of Dogecoin minis out there that people have bought into, and they are profitable during the bull run. Actually, I believe they're even profitable now. I mean, Scrypt Algo has seen a huge boost in profitability, and I believe it's a coin. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's a like Bell coin or whatever. I haven't really looked into it because it's only been the last few days, but our Hashblade alone went from like making 380 a day gross to like $11, and I was like, what in the world is this? But then you looked at the market cap of that coin, and it was like 13 million, 19 million dollars, and I was like, I don't get it. But NiceHash is taking advantage of that, and a lot of people are pointing their hash rate at NiceHash for that.
Yeah,
but it's I mean, power efficiency is basically the big thing, and that's, I mean, I don't want to. I'll just segue into the Hashblade. And I was actually just getting the most recent numbers on the break even per kilowatt hour. And this is what I want a lot of people to realize, because they don't look at the power efficiency when they usually buy an ASIC. They just see the gross, but they don't take into consideration a lot of the other costs associated with it, and the main one being power. But our break even for power alone was like $1 per kilowatt hour. If you were running under $1 per kilowatt hour, you're making money. And I mean, the L7 was at like 18 cents. So we, it's a huge advantage to the decentralization and being able to attack the B2C market without having them have a bad experience.
Yeah, wow.
What we're wanting to accomplish.
That's pretty incredible. I know when I was talking to Nate, he kind of ballparked in our current bear market. We're not in a bull. Maybe we're in a bull. Who knows? I don't think we are yet.
A mini bull.
Yeah, mini bull, pre-bull, whatever we call it. Either way, mining is a 24/7 operation. And, whether it's a bull or a bear or whatever, if you're interested in mining, you have to deal with the costs. And so right now we're at more of a suppressed price of the coin. Interest is low. he mentioned something about 12 cents stateside. So under $1 is a gigantic gap of
Yeah.
profitability. I want to say I'm around 9 cents in Central Texas per
Yeah.
kilowatt hour, which is pretty good. Um, so that wow, that's I did not know
But,
that.
yeah, I mean, we're bringing quite efficient technology to market. And what a lot of people don't realize still is we're on a 12 nanometer node. I mean, if we went down to the node Bitman's on the 7, then you basically can double the hash rate and half the power consumption. So instead of the competition having to either match us or beat the 400% that we're currently doing, I mean, that's like a year turnaround that we could actually, get into that lower efficiency, but we don't see the need to go there. And I wouldn't want to fight for line space with larger companies and just have the ability to have the line space in Global Foundries in Malta, New York.
Yeah.
Instead.
I'm curious if we could compare, and I don't know how much you can speak to this. I know we're here to talk about your organization. I'm interested in what you're doing to the space, but we have to recognize what exists. So, like, how
Yeah.
many hash blades would I need to get to be equivalent to the power of, for example, one L7 Bitmain Antminer?
Be about 5 hash blades
5 hash
for
blades.
the hash rate. If you match it on the power consumption, you're looking at like 23, 24 units, I believe.
Okay, so 23 or 24 would be the same energy cost. Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's
So
pretty.
if somebody's running like a L7 at home, if you were to replace that with our hash blades, instead of having 9 gigahash, you'd have, I think, about 46, 47 gigahash, roughly.
Wow. Okay. Energy consumption, I know, has been the major point. We're already talking about that. Differentiating the hash blade from the other miners.
Well, and putting it in a form factor that is not only affordable but can retrofit into existing infrastructure. And also another point I like to bring about is, I mean, this is back to the libertarian views, is having that small platform.
Mhm.
It really brings a very important thing going into the future, I believe personally. But it's a form of censorship-resistant mining. I mean, you can plug this hash blade in at home, put it in your PC. It's 145 watts. If a government tries banning it or tries getting rid of your hash blade, how are they going to know what house is mining?
Mhm.
But if you're running L7 and you're pulling, 3,500 watts every hour, on the hour, all day, all year, they'll know exactly. Households don't use that much power. So I do like the fact that it is a form of censorship resistant mining from the like political side of things, because you don't know. I would say that's probably the biggest worry our industry has going forward is no regulation and politicians like Senator Warren just attacking it left and right.
Yeah,
No, not a
correct.
fan of that.
I'm hoping she's not coming to Norway.
No, no, I don't think they'd let her in.
But she, of course, her speaking here stateside. The United States government has quite a presence in the world and sets a lot of examples. So um, we haven't been the worst on the planet, but we also, as of late, certainly have not been the leading, uh, cause of freedom in the realm of cryptos. So this administration's been a little bit cold. I know the previous one was to a degree, at least in language. I mean, Trump said, "Oh, I forget a specific quote, but he wasn't a big fan of Bitcoin. I think he said he'd never use it or whatever."
Yeah,
However, the people he had in office were very supportive. So you kind of had one part saying one thing, and what were you actually doing? There was a little bit of a variance there, but it's kind of just chilly all over right now. So
I think his stance has had to change. If he's
it
selling
might have.
NFTs,
That's true too. That's correct too. So again, what was he saying and what was he doing? Yes, correct. Um, Either way, we have to move from today to the future, and I hope it gets a brighter and freer, especially for proof of work. But it's an open ecosystem, and I'm not a fan of however many thousands are out there for the most part, but I'm not prohibiting them either, right? More of the libertarian angle. We choose, we make our decisions, and the best ones will lead. And I think that's already happening. But back to energy consumption, I think that's a neat point that you make because you said it was 140 watts.
145 watts
So that's
at
like
2 gig
a
hash rate.
handful of light bulbs, depending on the power. I mean, yeah, that's undetectable. So, yeah, that's pretty incredible. In terms of me setting it up, um, if I were to buy a Hashblade, could I just plug it into my PC? I'm thinking, yeah. What about a laptop or like a solid
I mean,
state where like
you
it's
could
just
take a Raspberry Pi Zero, run it
so
off that if you want with the PSU.
so what's
I mean,
the
or you can get an external GPU case if you just have a laptop, or you can throw it into an existing rig.
so you can run this off of a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Is it a USB
It'd
adapter?
be a little work, but we're actually we have plans on basically streamlining that to allow people to do that.
That's
'Cause I'm excited about it because I
Release
mean this is
something for that. I've
another.
got two of
Oh,
them
go
laying
ahead.
around doing nothing. So, because
Well, you
the
got two controllers then.
because the Lightning node was just a kind of a headache. So I just kind of have them doing nothing at the moment. But like I'm more, I mean, there's build it your own, desktops which are open them up and everything's accessible. You got other little like tiny laptops that no one's going to open those up. So like, is
Yeah.
this like a USB connect or like some sort of adapter to get the
Yeah, we do
Hashblade or?
have a USB header on it. It will also communicate again across PCIe, which is very important. A lot of people they really want Hive OS. I mean, they want Hive OS for all the rigs and stuff, but that's the benefit of not having a controller and having a communication across PCIe. You can just basically run an executable and go right into it. So it'll be fairly easy and streamlined setup. I mean, we're making it user friendly because I mean, one of the big reasons we went, and I'll tell you why we went with the Hashblade is Ethereum was going to proof of stake. We quickly realized that you're going to have a ton of infrastructure out there that's not going to be utilized for mining with GPUs. So we went ahead and started formulating the plan for the Hashblade, and we're like, this is a huge opportunity because people don't have to change out their power infrastructure. If you're running a bunch of GPU rigs, it is quite expensive to change that over to ASICs. If your power capacity is only there, you're gonna have to redo everything. But for the Hashblade, you can literally just plug it in, download the driver, and get to mining. And we see that as a huge benefit for like B2B, but for B2C, it's even more important because going back to early days and what I think really shot Ethereum going forward is going to proof of stake. The people that made them big were the small miners because typically the person with the smallest amount of money in is the largest horn on social media and gets the name out. We really would see that allowing people to have a good experience by being able to buy a card that's going to maintain profitability through the highs and the lows of the industry. They're going to be excited. I mean, they're going to be going out. They're going to be telling people they're having a good experience, and you need to take a look at this. And I think it's going to be great for the community going forward when people actually have a good experience with mining equipment, mining hardware specifically, instead of buying a brick from a Shaw miner and trying to mine on residential power. You can't do it.
Yeah, it's just an impossibility. Although that's where we started. Everybody was mining on
Yeah.
their laptops, back when these things were launched, which is, again, is that an impossibility, basically, for all intents and purposes at this time, prior to Hashblade? You need an L7, in other
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, you basically need it. Well, you can have an L7, but I tell you the truth, all legacy hardware will be profitable during a bull market and or if you have free market or free power, which a lot of areas do. I mean, I forgot which pub I was just reading, but their average price per kilowatt hour is about 2.5 cents. That's very beneficial when it comes to BTC mining. I'm looking forward to seeing these large actors realize that Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and the same thing with Doge being the bronze. But it'll be interesting to see how the market goes forward, especially the way that we're wanting to bring these hash blades to market
You
in a
initially,
respectable and responsible manner.
I'm guessing you initially, seeing that this is something that's very easy to use, very energy efficient. People can start, firing up miners at home through the Hashblade, joining in whatever pool. By the way, do you have your own pool, or are we joining other pools?
Correct. We do have our own pool, and we're pretty open about us self mining. So we're going to be self mining probably about 5 to 10%, and that will be all with the quality control units. So,
Okay.
from each batch, we'll be randomly selecting cards, and then putting them in our facility after they go through testing. And then that way, if somebody, because we'll have an advanced RMA program for returns, because typically in manufacturing, you have about a 2% return rate, 2 to 3, I would say. But especially with our product, since there's not that many moving parts and it's a very simple product to make. But other than the silicon was extremely hard. But those units will come in, they'll be mining, and then if someone has a unit to return, and if there's something wrong with the batch, we'd know quite quickly since we have units from that batch that are mining.
Okay.
So
So initially, this is kind of back to my initial statement. Interesting about your own pool, though. Um, you
oh
initially
yeah, we'll be self mining in our own pool.
self
Like
mining in
we
your own
we
pool.
but we're not gonna be pushing people towards our pool. Like I mean, I would never want to see a pool have more than 15%. Like I think 15% is max. Granted, depending on the voting rights and all that, that's different. But I definitely want diversification of the pools.
Okay. But you initially had the small miner in mind with Hashblade.
Yes.
I mean, you're disrupting the space to allow the independent individuals to come in and kind of do this from home again, um, kind of bringing us back to square one in a good way. And obviously, this is going to add some pressure to the more, the Bitmains, et cetera. However, what's going to stop a large mining farm from buying a bunch of hash blades and running those? I mean, it's
Well,
scalable as well.
yeah. Well, what we're wanting to do is since we're basically this seller as well. I mean, we do have a few resellers that we're starting to onboard, but we actually don't want any one individual to get more than 2 megawatts. If they say, we need 10 megawatt, no, you can't have 10 megawatts. I mean, I think I had it written down because I
Yeah.
know this
How many
question will
units
come
would
up, but
that
I think
be?
it was like to replace the whole entire hash rate with our hash blade, like 60 megawatts.
Okay. And you're not going to
And
issue.
if they're all running L7s, it was like a 260 megawatts. So you can't put too much hash rate into one person's hands.
And how many hash blades would, without me running the math, hit that kind of cap that you'll supply?
Now I think it's about 360,000 hash blades,
That's a good amount of
roughly.
hash blades.
Yeah, it's a decent amount. I'll
But
tell you that.
so you are it is a decent amount. However, to farms perhaps not so much. So you do have some supply or order caps to kind of defend the smaller folks. Is that kind of
Yeah,
the
we'll
idea?
see. Yeah, I mean that's a perfect segue into how we're wanting to release this. So once we get up to, I'd say about 250,000, 300,000 units, we're really going to start actively monitoring the hash rate. And what that means is we're literally going to be watching to see how profitable our miner is throughout that. Because what's going to happen is you have all the legacy miners. Legacy hardware always falls off the hashing first, unless they got free power. But we want to make sure that we can maintain a good amount of profitability for the end user. And the best thing about it is we'll be able to sell more batches as the value of Litecoin or Dogecoin or any other coin on the Scrypt algo goes up. So we want to be a good actor on that. And how we're doing that is we're actually going to have a live counter on hash blades delivered, like on our website. Like once they start another 1,000 shipped out, another 5,000 shipped out. Like so people can, start to calculate. It's not what's plugged in, but people can start to calculate like what kind of hash rates, or hash blades are coming online. So it'll be another data point for people to recognize.
And when will you start shipping? Are you shipping now? How
No,
does the
it'll be in
order
the second
process
half of
even
this
work?
next year.
But orders are open now for anybody, or are you taking certain tranches of people that
Yeah,
maybe
no,
signed up? Or
MOQ is 1 unit, and then goes up from there. Anything over 128 units, we have them reach out to us because then they can qualify for pay like scheduled payments instead. So we
okay,
don't like dry up their liquidity going into the halving for Bitcoin.
okay. So in terms of running the Hashblade, you mentioned before there's a USB Connect PCE port. Is it basically plug and play for the person interested in it? I mean, you mentioned the operating
Yeah.
system. So tell us, just kind of, unbox it for us. What do we do? How long does it take to set something like this up?
Well, basically, I mean, it's like any other miner. I mean, you'll make it discoverable on, or you'll download the software, from us. Granted, if you're not running Hive OS, and once that takes place, you basically can have the Hashblade or hash blades. You're basically going to have your pool be added, your wallet added, then you start hashing away. I mean, we had a bunch of YouTubers come out and we connected to the pools in like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, which is quite fast. And everybody was commenting on that because we actually have very good software that allows us to do that. But one thing we did notice with other competitors is that they usually get it done and that's enough. So what we're doing is we're putting a lot of effort into making a seamless and a high quality code going forward to be able to make it as seamless as possible for B2C, because not everybody has been mining, and we want to streamline as much as possible. Even for NiceHash, like NiceHash will be sending out the documentation and a few of the the engineering run hash blades to them so that they can go ahead and basically make it even more seamless for people to plug and play.
Very good. Very good. How did that go in DC, by the way? You had a handful of, like you said, YouTubers. I don't follow that content as much, but I did watch the video. So how did that kind of get arranged? Tell us about how it went in DC.
Well, I mean, one thing we realized, because we haven't really been focusing on much marketing or anything. Like, we've been focused on the tech and getting this, getting everything accomplished to where we can finally open, pre-orders and have the confidence that this is coming to market. So after we got everything validated, we had the USB being able to mine in the shop and even being third-party validated. We were like, all right, now we can open pre-orders. And what we wanted to do is go ahead. I mean, we've had a lot of people catch up to us after the 2022 Litecoin conference, and everyone started commenting. But one thing we really realized is there's a huge knowledge gap between the manufacturer, because it's been quite opaque, to tell you the truth. I mean, Bitmain doesn't come out and tell you what they're making or the issues that they're having or any of this stuff, it's, quite secretive, or how many L7s have been sold. But since we're a pubco in Norway, I mean, anything good or bad, we have to release to the market. So once that point has came and we actually were able to open the pre-orders, I went ahead and reached out to all these YouTubers to kind of help fill in this knowledge gap and to show Silicon and talk about how to bring Silicon to market in a standardized method. And that's basically what we're doing. We have not rushed this process at all, which a lot of companies typically do. And then it kind of faults and shows in their Silicon. But we're taking our time to create not only an awesome Scrypt ASIC, but an awesome Edge AI inferencing ASIC as well. So
Noted. Very good. Curious to talk about energy. Nate, when he was on the show, again, he was our only other miner we had on the 84 Million podcast. He talked about how mining can balance energy grids, for example. He also talked, I mean, I just think there's a lot of benefit to proof of work, but I think we're in a realm of, there's some government and probably to a degree corporate propaganda against proof of work as a giant waste of resources. Can you speak to that a little bit and see maybe how Hashblade interplays with this narrative, or maybe helps offset that narrative?
I would say that would be a terrible idea for our Hashblade. It's too efficient, and we can only basically centralize. I mean, you'd basically have to centralize a significant amount of hash rate in one location, unless there was already something in place for government enrollment for decentralized grid balancing, which there are companies that are doing that with cars now that are plugged in. You basically get plug your car in every night, and if they need it, they'll go ahead and choose your car, and you actually get money off your power. And which is quite early stages, but I could see in the next 5 years that being a pretty large aspect for mining at home as well, because then you're decentralizing the grid balancing. But for ours, I don't think that any grid balancing would ever want like less than 10 megawatts, for that to be a base load. So I mean, so for our hash blade, I don't believe it would be good at all. I mean, but Bitcoin has so much hash rate and so much power consumption on it right now that it's a perfect example of what can be good and done with the hash rate and power consumption for the securing the network on Bitcoin.
Yes, I agree that a single hash blade will not rebalance the grid. However, I think it was part of even the ones that are chewing up a lot of energy. There is it can be said that they're actually providing, of course, a service to the network, but also to their communities and local areas. Now, you're kind of disrupting that entire thing. So that's sort of fascinating. And you're on the other side of extreme efficiency, but you're still a miner. So I'm just saying mining is not the enemy of the earth. You're making it better.
Yeah.
But mining in general, I think there's been a lot of attack on, we need a cryptocurrency or a CBDC or whatever is yet to be released. Or they were talking about green Bitcoin a few years ago. And that's the opposite of fungibility too, right? You have Bitcoin and now green Bitcoin. That's another distinction of types of the same product. But there's a lot of narratives, and you're actually, or Lokotech is doing great things on the efficiency side, which I think it should be very favorable to kind of take some of that taint away from the mining industry. But I just want to defend it as a baseline.
You always have it. I mean, the politicians have an agenda. I mean, it's funny when they attack one industry, but they don't attack another. I think in New York, they tried to say, oh, they have to prove that they're taking 100% green energy, but none of the government offices are running 100% on green energy, or no other industry has to be running on green. I don't like that. It's not fair. And they are specifically attacking, that is attack against our industry. I mean, even in Norway, which I would love to see someone argue that, people were burning like bad in, I'm about to speak Norwegian. They're, burning dirty energy when we got like 99% hydropower. So every miner here is basically a green miner. And there are some decent like mining farms here in Norway.
I wanted to talk to you about your region. So maybe we can go a little bit more with that. And I had thought that, again, I don't follow the energy policies, the upgrades, your trends where you're living. I have to admit, a lot of us in America get to be very closed. We kind of look at our own communities, and I think that's a good thing, to be localist. But people are doing different things in different parts of the world, right? And I'm curious of what the Norwegian government's position is on crypto, on mining. Of course, I believe they've helped you in to some degree with funding, if that's correct. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's more for the R&D side.
Grant, so, I mean, things like that.
I mean, like any company, we need to apply for government grants, and Norway has a substantial amount of money that they give away in government grants and stuff. But I mean, we are a very wealthy nation. I mean, we got 5 million people. I think it's a 1.6 trillion dollar trust fund. It's government done right, basically. Mm-hmm. And on the crypto side, I would say that they're neutral. I think regulation will be coming, but they're optimistic because, of course, as a rich nation, you want industry to be here. And another good thing, as I just mentioned, is it's very like common sense laws here. Like they can't treat one industry differently than another. So if it would be illegal for them to come out and say, oh, you got to do this without putting it on any other industry. So, and that's like what happened in New York couldn't happen here. So I am a big fan of that. And coming from a small country too, it does help because, stuff just a lot more easier to, talk and move things and not as much bureaucracy. But I like it. It's a great country. Other than being dark all the time right now, it's a good country.
Yeah. Well, that's nice to know that. And again, it's not like you're funded by the government, but I'm saying there's grants, and you were able to apply for grants and get some money, and that they're supporting even crypto. Are you a startup technically? I mean, I don't know how long Lokotech's been around. Can I use that language?
Yeah, I would say we are kind of a glorified startup. I mean, everybody in Norway wants to be listed, so that's how we became listed on the secondary market, because everybody likes liquidity in their shares.
Hmm.
But we started this in 2019. That's when we made actually the big breakthrough for the efficiency.
Okay.
It took about a year to raise the $13.5 million needed to bring this to fruition. And I mean, halfway through, we actually had to redesign the ASIC because it wasn't dense enough. It would have been great for self mining, but it would have been terrible for the industry because we all would have known what happened to Litecoin or Dogecoin if one, large actor just started self mining. So we went back to the drawing board, made the wafer more dense, and now we're able to, have a dense enough wafer to be able to resell it and, hold units back through the quality control to self mine and kind of have a better experience for the industry at large. So, but I would say, I mean, we will be bringing the product to fruition. I mean, tape outs in Q2 this next year. And after validating our tech, I mean, it's basically 250 5-tile ones and 1-tile 0, which is our compute tile, which that's actually another thing I wouldn't mind talking about. But it's a microcontroller that's on board each ASIC. It allows for a more convenient run of your hardware. And basically, simply put, if your ASIC's not mining, it's not burning power. So all the way down to the tile. So you got 255 tiles. If say 5 of them go down, it'll turn it off. If you got a raceway in the ASIC go down, it'll turn off a quarter of the chip. If you got a full silicon failure, it just reroutes the power to the next chip. So I mean, instead you don't have any downtime for having to we got the daisy chain lottery. The first chip went out and it took out the next 10. You don't have that issue. So you don't have any downtime and you don't have any waste power. So people can literally just let it sit and run longer and let the board, basically calibrate itself for you.
Wow. Well, it's pretty exciting. I know you probably, I mean, that's your own information orders, but I know you've been making announcements and had some specials recently, I think with Black Friday, and kind of shaved a few percentage points off the units. I think there's a lot of anticipation to see how this plays out. I will link that DC show down in the notes, or you're meeting up with the miners in DC, just for people to review there as well. Maybe some of the other videos from YouTube, just to hear miners speaking more about what they've experienced so far with them testing out your Hashblade.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a good pulse on the industry with the YouTubers because they really are the like more advanced home miner. I mean, and plus they're dabbling in everything, so they know a little about a lot, which is very good. I mean, I do like that aspect because a lot of people don't have the time, with work, family, other events going along in the life. They can basically get it, plug it in, and they want to forget about it and just be able to talk about it. And I think those YouTubers really do bring like a good educational aspect to our industry on a smaller scale.
Yeah, I think so too. And they've got a lot of eyes on it. It's very palatable. But anyway, we'll put a few of them down in the show notes. I'll see if you have any specific you'd like after we're done here. But obviously, the dust is not even settled on Hashblade. This is a long time coming. That we're going to be rolling out the next year. However, I have to ask, is there anything else on the horizon beyond Hashblade that you might be looking at developing?
I would say, I mean, first and foremost, we want to bring this Hashblade to market, and then a lot of people will really start taking us serious then. I mean, especially when we release what we want to do with it, any other ASIC out there. But I would say, I mean, we do have plans for small USB miner. Have like 8 to 10 ASICs on it. We want to do retrofitting Hashblades into like the old L3 Plus, L3 Plus Plus, because you can get 4 Hashblades into those, and then even the S9s, because there's a lot of legacy infrastructure. People wait around for the bull markets to turn these on, but instead you can just buy the Hashblade. You already have a controller, so you can just take the flat cables, plug them in, and now you have a Scrypt ASIC miner. So and there's a lot of farms that have been interested in that kind of product as well. We'll probably be doing something like that in the spring after, but we needed more like information on what kind of hash rate will each of those have, because you have different real estate for the size of the PCBA board.
Very good. Where do people find you? Where should we be following on social apps? How are we ordering these things if we're interested?
You can go to lokotech.com, LOKOTECH.com. and you can reach out over sales channel there. You can reach me on Twitter at Ben Miklozek and or our company Twitter handle as well. We're not too active on the other social right now, just because we are a small company, but it'll be scaling quite quickly coming up, I believe.
Very good, very good. Well, again, we're glad to have you. I think you've shared a lot of great things here. I'm excited to have someone like you here on the platform just to share what's going on in the mining space and how are you changing it and how are things getting better. I think you're moving us into a new direction in terms of energy efficiency that we have not seen or really prioritized, to be fair. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens. Any final thoughts you have for us?
I mean, other than listen to the last few of your podcasts, inspired me to spin up a few more nodes because there's so little of them.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah, I know we're under 1,000 per the report. So yes, everyone, run a node.
Yeah, I think when I popped mine on, it was like 914 or something for
Yeah,
Litecoin, and I set up a Dogecoin one as well,
yeah.
another one. So
Very good, very good. Run a node, folks. Follow Ben. Check out Lokotech. If you are interested in mining, I think it sounds like he's got something you might be interested in. I think the whole idea of further decentralizing mining sounds like a great idea. I think it's very much in line, like we said, with the early libertarian decentralized. Anyone can participate in this. Of course, we can participate with nodes and validations, right? But to actually participate in mining from your home. So obviously the units are not cheap. So there's going to be an initial capital investment for you to get involved in however many hash blades you want. But, that's proof of work. You invest to get the result. So that's part of the market and everything too. We're all for that. So anyway, Ben, it's been a pleasure to have you. I wish you the best with Lokotech. Hopefully we'll get some updates maybe next year from you as more of this stuff starts to roll out. We could maybe see how it's going. So,
yeah.
But anyway, we'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me, man. It's been a great time speaking with you.
Well, very good. It's been a pleasure having you. Again, follow Ben Miklozek on X. Check out Lokotech. Everybody, we appreciate you for tuning in today, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.